All right, everybody, welcome to this lessons learned session. We have Priya with us. Priya has just passed her PMP exam today. And one thing that I missed in today's Q&A session was her valuable contribution. So every time I need to see who would be able to give the, concrete explanation of an answer, I was, looking for Priya, and she was really, really helpful to all of us for collective learning. So first of all, thank you, Priya, for managing time for this lessons learned, and congratulations.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. So we will be talking to Priya about lessons learned. So I'll be asking some questions, then all of you can ask questions. So uh, uh, Priya, what was your exam preparation strategy? How did you prepare? Just walk us through the entire process.
So I probably started looking at doing my PMP about 6 months ago. And I got the PMBOK and I started reading through the PMBOK. And then I think I kind of lagged a little bit. It kind of got really boring. And then I saw your class. So I took your class, I think, was it in April or May?
Yes,
Yeah. So yeah, I took your class and I basically per your suggestion, I got the Rita's book. And then I went through the entire Rita's book. It took me a long time to actually read through. But that book was excellent. I mean, it's a no-brainer to use that book because not just for the exam sake, but generally, if you want to do better at project management, I think that's like the key resource. So that book really helped. And then I started doing the QA that you sent after I think about once I did your course, obviously, the course, and then I started doing those QAs, and then I did get hold of the PMI's study guide or whatever they have. I forget what it's called, but it wasn't really helpful because the quality of the questions were really not up to par, especially compared to what you have in your classes. So yeah, that's kind of like what I did. So basically just followed your principles, just read the book, do the Q&As. I did probably 3 of the mock exams. Um, I would have done the 4th one. I just lost a week in between. So yeah.
all right. All right. So you attended my course and then you read the book and solved Q&As. How many questions did you solve apart from 3 full tests?
I probably did at least another 500 questions. But I couldn't get through all of them. But I picked topics like based on your feedback on what tests are focusing on, like risk, stakeholders, communication. I mean, so I picked the topics that were really crucial for the exams based on other people's experience and kind of like went through probably, each of them had like about 100 questions. So I probably solved about 500 questions.
All right. And what was your average score on these mock exams?
So on the mock exams, I scored about 70%. The last one I took, I think I was a little higher. I clocked at 72. So that was the max. I probably started off at 60, and then climbed all the way up to 72.
All right. So Priya solved more than 1,000 questions and her average score was above 70. So this is what I say. If your score is above 70, means you are ready to write the exam. Okay. And Priya, how helpful was our daily Q&A session and how you would relate it with the real exam in terms of difficulty, in terms of testing the concepts and language and length and other different parameters?
I mean, the Q&A sessions, I thoroughly enjoyed them. As you can see, from hearing me, you can see that I was really enjoying them because it was a way to kind of like really think through things loudly without being judged, and still feel like you are in a safe environment to kind of like discuss things. So thanks for you for creating that environment. The QA questions that you had were terrific. I think they were very. I thought you should be on the board that creates the questions for PMI. Because the quality of the questions, I really don't think they were up to par with what you have. So if you were, I think if you go with your Q&A sessions, as you keep saying, they are tougher. They make you think a lot more. They're on varied topics. So it really sets you up for success. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Okay, how much time you actually spent in the entire preparation process, either in terms of hours or days?
Yeah, I would say a solid 3 months. Um, Given that, I had a 6 month lag, overall, I would say a solid 3 months. I think after April, the real preparation started after April, after doing your boot camp, because that kind of like, made everything more serious, because you keep pushing people to, take the exam. I should have taken the exam about a month ago, because that's when I kind of peaked, because by doing your class and then reading through the Rita's book, and then like basically you saturate all the knowledge is in you. So I could have done the exam a month ago, but at that time I had thought I was not ready. But yeah, so I would say 3 months definitely.
All right, thank you. So, was the exam in line with what you have prepared or what we have been doing in these Q&As and book and everything, or were there any surprises?
No, most of the topics were very similar. So some of them were very easy, and they kind of dealt in the same areas of like stakeholders and communication. And like you said, the agile. I mean, I know you're going to ask this question, but it was mostly, it says agile, but it's mostly about the principles behind how you run a project. So I found it very relatable. I just feel like the Q&A sessions just gave you more confidence in yourself to be able to go into the exam knowing that you have done the groundwork. And that kind of, in fact, I completed the exam an hour before the end. So I wasn't sure if that was a good thing or a bad thing. But it really helps you plow through your yeah. So in terms of the relatability, I think a lot of topics were covered, which we cover in our sessions. But I think the probably the one jargon that I probably we didn't cover was sprint charter. There was one option that said sprint. Maybe I should not say this, but there was one option called sprint charter, and I haven't come across that in any of our sessions or in the Rita's book. So that was the only outlier.
All
Other than
right.
that, every
That that was a made up term, right? Just to confuse you.
so I hope so.
All right. All right. And you said you completed the exam 1 hour earlier, right?
Yeah, yeah.
How did you do that? How did you manage your time?
I think what happened was I was the one of the challenges I had was like I always used my timer in my PC, which is like it goes from 0 to X, right? So when you're in the exam, it goes from whatever 230 minutes down. So it was really hard for me to kind of like do the math that quickly to see where I was. So I kind of like plowed through section one, and just 60 I did 60 questions, and uh, I just submitted it, and it gave me a break option. I took the break, and then I came back, and the next section also I plowed through it, and then I realized I had like a lot of time, so I did the third section, and then I said I'm going to go each and every answer, I'm going to go back and check it just to be sure, so that like at least I did make a few changes when I did do that, like I kind of like second guessed a little bit here and there and made a couple of changes. So yeah, I think there is enough time to for the exam. I don't think you have to. I think next time if I do have to do it again, I would be more I would pace myself better instead of trying to just jam it.
All right, thank you. So some of us do not like to read the book. How would you advise to them? Like, can the exam be passed without reading a book?
I think the book is kind of like it lays the foundation. Even if, yeah, I feel like I think you should read the book as much as you can, because I feel like, it really lays the foundation, not just for the exam's sake, but if you really want to get better at what you're doing or learn, it's I strongly recommend doing the book, because you just feel empowered by reading the book.
All right. How difficult was PMP exam?
Would say it was, I don't know. I should say after I get my analysis, depends on that. But I would say it was not very hard. It was not as hard as I thought it was going to be.
All right. Were you confident that you were going to pass the exam when you were solving questions?
I was not very confident. I was afraid to be confident. I think I was like, am I being overconfident was my worry. Because they seemed very simple and I seemed to be getting them. There were a few vague questions. Like there, some of them were like, you just couldn't know what the right answer was. It's very confusing. So yeah, I was kind of like 50-50. I wasn't really fully sure.
All right. Thank you, Priya. So I think I have asked all the questions. These would be really helpful to everybody. Anyone from the participants, if you like to ask any question to Priya, you can. No question?
Priya, sorry,
Hi.
hi, congratulations, my dear. And
Thank you.
you set the bar for us. I honestly don't think I am ready at all to take the test. I was wondering what made you think that you are ready.
Yes. So I took the Q&A test that Amar had given. I was scoring consistently 60%. And then I came to his Q&A sessions where I was kind of like between 50 and 60. On the good days, I would be 60. On very good days, I would be 70. And on mediocre days, I would be 50. And Amar kind of kept saying that, if you're getting more than 50, then or 60, then you should, you're kind of like getting ready, getting there. So that kind of like, so it was a lot of confidence that Amar provided, feedback from him that helped me. And also like, looking at my results and saying, okay, I'm getting 70% in my mock exam. So that seemed to be like, where I should be. And I think at some point I had to like bite the bullet and say, I'm going to do it, because literally I had waited 15 years to do this. I could have done this 15 years ago. So I didn't want to wait any longer and regret it. So
Congratulations.
thank you. Yeah.
All right. Anybody else? Any other question? Priya, did you have any question where you needed to do some mathematical calculations?
There was a couple of questions. One was with the schedule variance and cost variance. It was more like a graph. It was a little tricky. It was like a graph. It doesn't really ask you to calculate, but then it shows you a graph and asks you, are you like, is it a schedule variance or a cost variance, something like that. And then there was one question where you had to kind of know whether your project was under or over budget. So yes, a couple of questions.
All right. And how was your experience with the drag and drop type questions?
Oh yeah, the drag and drop. There were 3 questions, drag and drop. 2 of them were very straightforward. I thought they were very simple. I think one was about risk. One was it was a very vague question. It was like it was not very hard. It was just like, surprising that they would ask that question. They were pretty, I don't think they were pretty that hard. They were pretty straightforward. But you had to, one of them was a little bit, you had to spend a little bit of time.
All right. Have you received your final results, Priya?
No, not yet.
All right. So there's a question in the chat window. Did you take the test at the exam center or at home?
I took it at the center. Mine had it at 8 a.m. in the morning. I was very skeptical of doing an exam at 8 in the morning. So I did take the last two mock exams. I kind of like woke up early and tried taking them in the morning. So I get used to that. Actually, the mock exams was much harder than the actual exam. So, so I was really skeptical. But yeah, I took it at the center and I thought it was a good decision because there were a lot of other people. I mean, it was so busy. There were like 10 other people doing different exams, and it was pretty straightforward. It was very quiet. It was, yeah, I preferred doing it at the center.
All right. There is one more question. What was the average length of question in the exam?
Most of the questions were about, two-liners. There were nothing more than that. So some of them were like even like less than one line, like, half a line. So very, very short questions, maximum two-liners.
All right. One more question. How helpful was memorization during the process?
Not at all helpful because, first of all, my memory is not that great. So, yeah, I don't think you can really memorize it. There was probably, I did think that, like going through the Rita's process chart where you have like the different channels, like the initiation planning, that kind of, I really tried to memorize that to make sure that I'm in the right process group. But then when it comes to the exam, it's more, it's a different kind of, skill set that you have to use. Memory is not going to help you. Maybe like, yeah, the formula for schedule variance. Yes, you would, that would be helpful. So a little bit here and there. But mostly I think it's more about, it's a kind of a different type of questions.
All right. One more question. Did you use class notes or how helpful is taking notes during the course?
When I took the class with Amar, I made my own notes. And then I kind of like went back to it a little bit here and there. But then the day before the exam, or even like throughout the preparation, I kind of went back to Amar's notes, especially when we had the Q&A session and I didn't know an answer. I would go back into it and I would find there would be some information there, which I had probably not gone through. So it kind of like reinforced some of the things. But I would say that not just for the exam, Amar's notes are kind of like, I would go back to it even at work. I think like when I have to refer back to like a principle or, something that can be really useful in real life, right? So I would go back to his notes. Yeah, so amazing notes.
All right. Thank you, Priya. One last question from my side. You have gone through the entire process. How helpful this journey is in terms of learning and development as a project manager?
I think it's incredible. I learned a lot more in this, even though I've been a project manager for the last 4 years. I think I learned a lot more in this class than I can see the application. I do have some advantage because I can see how it really applies in real life. But this kind of like, this experience basically kind of like really strengthened my knowledge. So I think it's self-development. If you're looking for that, then this course I would highly recommend because it's kind of like giving you that knowledge base that's very hard to come by and experience. That it's very hard to get in real life. So some scenarios you may face, you may not face, right? But this kind of goes through all of the scenarios that you might face. So yeah, I would not just recommend this program just for the sake of taking the exam, but just for self-development.
Absolutely, absolutely. So this exam or PMP, not just for the sake of a certificate, it's for the learning and development purpose as well. And if I summarize, just follow the simple process. Take the course, go through the content, and take mock exams. When I say content, it could be either in the form of a book or class notes or class presentation, whatever you have. You can take your own notes. So attend the course, go through the content and solve mock exam. And if your average score in the mock exam is nearly 70%, means you're ready to write the exam. All right. Thank you so much, Priya. And once again, congratulations. Your lessons learned would be really helpful and would be quite motivating for all of us and the people who would be preparing for the exam. We will be in touch.
Absolutely.
Yes. And once again, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It
Yeah,
was lovely
congrats.
to be part of this journey.
Likewise, likewise. Thank you so much, everybody. Take good care of yourself. I'll see you in the next class. Take care. Bye.
Bye.